Thank you, everyone. We appreciate your patience. We did a little run through yesterday, and everything was perfect. And of course, today when we launch, we have a few delays. I was at an event at the UN not long ago, and it was an AI event, and they said something I've never forgotten, which is uh, AI is easy, AV is hard. So we run into these issues from time to time. But thank you for being here for our EFG Investor Update webinar. For those of you who were at our previous webinar, we hope this should be filled with a lot of new information that will fill you in on some of the progress of EFG. For those of you who this is your first time on our webinars and more recent to encountering EFG, you should learn a lot here, and we're really excited. EFG, a crowdfunding partner, and I'll be moderating the rest of this webinar today. I'm really excited to introduce you to Mark Collins, who is the CEO and founder of EFG, and Tom Boudet, who is the Chief Marketing Officer. As far as what you can expect from today, what we're going to do, we're going to have Mark provide some updates. We're going to have Tom introduce himself. I've got some questions that I'm going to ask both of them, and then we'll go into an investor Q&A from all of you. You should see on your screen, although the chat is disabled because this is an open webinar, we do have a Q&A section where you can drop in your questions at any point. We have a specific time set aside to answer them, but drop them in whenever you have them. And once we get to that Q&A section, I'll be moderating and asking Tom and Mark those questions. Before we jump in, I will say that our WeFunder campaign is live at wefunder.com/emission-free-generators. So at any point today during this webinar, right now, if you haven't invested yet and feel so inspired to, we welcome you and would love to see you inside as an investor. Without further ado, Mark, would love for you to take it away.
Yeah, great. Thanks very much, Alex. And again, apologies for not being able to be on video. But at least you got a reasonably nice picture of me on the front there, so that's good. So yeah, thanks, Alex. It's great to be here today, especially with my fellow director, Tom. For those of you just learning about us, welcome and thanks for being here. And for those who already know and follow EFG, it's great to have you with us. So we invented, I'm going to give you a little bit of background on the company and also on me. So let me start on me first. So I've been inventing products since I left college. Haven't actually worked for anybody in my life apart from creating my own company and inventing things, selling those products, and then ultimately selling the company with 3 exits during the last 30 odd years. And I have 28 patents in electrical, mechanical, and chemical as well. So pretty experienced in understanding what is required for IP related to companies. So what we do now is we've invented the EFG hydrogen technology, and we've made that into a reality. And our job is to give people access to clean, portable power in a nice, convenient, easy to use generator. That's what we set out to do. Doing something new and different always takes time. It takes a lot of commitment and it takes people. And today we are very fortunate to have some great people in our company and also on our board of directors. And I can share more about that during our progress today. A little bit of history on just in the last few months. In May, we launched our crowdfunding seed round after a successful pre-seed round. And this is our seed round via the WeFunder platform. We've had exceptionally high demand, especially from early bird investment terms. So thank you very much for those who jumped on nice and quickly. The response from members of the public has been absolutely wonderful and really positive. We currently have over 175 investors, and we also have over 1,000 responses for more information and interest in wanting to buy the first of the production line EFGs. So our launch into the WeFunder platform has been exceptional for us and given us, in effect, about 6 months worth of sales that we're looking to do for next year. So great news. At today's date, the campaign has around about $290,000, and that's of our initial. That's contributing to our initial raise of 300,000. So we just have a few thousand left in effect. So reaching our goal allows us to focus on our final design, build the final part of the minimal viable product, which is just before we go into pre-production, and that money coming in maintains our progress to reach our production, which is scheduled for early next year. We're also continuing with community engagement through many live events that we cover throughout every month, in effect, including participation in the San Diego Innovation Showcase, where we were chosen to present and explain how we actually succeeded in creating hydrogen and electricity without any storage. So, Alex, it's been a really busy time for EFG, but back to you.
Perfect. Thanks. Yes, and being just behind the scenes on the fundraising part, it has certainly been quite busy. Excellent. Thank you, Mark. And now I'm very excited to introduce Tom, the CMO, his background. Ask yourself what you do here at EFG and a bit more about kind of what you're excited about here.
Sure. Well, thank you, Alex, and thank you to everyone for joining. My name is Tom Boudet. I'm the Chief Marketing Officer for Emission-Free Generators. I've been involved with the company for about 3 years now. My career has been basically in consumer goods marketing, and most of that was with Nestle, the food and beverage company, where I worked for 37 years. I spent about half my career with Nestle in the US and the rest of it in Europe and other locations around the world. My last job with Nestle was global head of marketing and consumer communication for the group, where I worked across product categories including pet care, coffee and beverage, frozen food, etc. So that's a little bit about myself and my background.
Awesome. And we're going to get into some specific questions here, but Tom, I'm just curious, global head of marketing for Nestle, now working at EFG, a startup. I have to imagine, as you were evaluating future opportunities, there were numerous, and you chose EFG as what you wanted to do next and where you wanted to spend your time. I'm just curious, and I think people would love to know, why did you choose EFG?
So, the one thing I would say is that I learned a lot of things in my 37 years at Nestle, but I would say the most fundamental and something I learned almost from day one is that when it comes to marketing and competing successfully in the marketplace, especially with a new product, lots of elements are critical to success. Choosing the right brand name, choosing a logo that's easily recognizable, having good packaging design that stands out at the shelf, advertising persuasively, choosing the right target audience, finding the audience efficiently with your media plan, having a social media presence. All those things are really important. But the single most important driver of success by far in the Nestle world, and I think in general, is to have a winning product. And a winning product for me, and I think for anyone who's worked in marketing and business, is a product that meets consumers' needs, solves consumers' problems, enhances consumers' lives better than the currently available products. And when I got to know EFG, talking to Mark, learning about the technology, I'm not a technology guy myself, but I could quickly understand that this is something quite interesting. And Mark and his team were on a pathway to developing a product that would meet that criteria that I just explained.
Fantastic. Thanks, Tom. Okay, we have a few questions. So just want to acknowledge those of you who have been asking them, we see them. Brian, Tony, we have an anonymous question as well. We will certainly get to those in a moment, so just keep asking them. They're not going into a black hole. First, Mark, I would love for you to just give us an update on technology progress to date.
Yeah, great. So let me start off with just going through some of the basics on the EFG device. So the EFG can be split into three main sections. That's power management, number one, hydrogen production, number two, and conversion of the hydrogen into electricity being number three. As an update on the EFG technology, we've now fully completed section one, which is the uninterrupted power supply function and complete power management of the unit. This has been integrated into section three, which is the EFG proton exchange membrane operation. So that's what we've been managing to do so far, which is great and all finished. It's section two that we have been requiring the funding for. And I'm pleased to say that we're well underway to completing the process of building the housing for the cartridge, which is the middle bit, the section bit. Section 2 bit. By the end of August, we'll have the form and function of the complete EFG unit ready for customer demonstrations and feedback in September.
Fantastic. Fantastic. And what about where do things stand with manufacturing readiness and scalability?
Yeah, well, we're in the final stages of the generator design. We are in a supplier partnership with a professional product design firm, which is assisting us with this part. In December 25, we'll be building and test pre-production units to the build process. This step ensures that we lock in final design for manufacturing adjustments. It's at this stage that we will gain UL compliance, which is making sure that this is good for consumer use and safe for consumer use. By March 26, we plan to begin small-scale manufacturing with runs of about 150 units via our selected contract manufacturers. We have one in California and one in Washington State. This allows us to launch into the market and start generating revenue, which is great for a startup. During Q2 and to the end of 26, we'll scale production to 3,750 devices. We'll keep a keen eye on quality control and cost reduction through 2026, and then we enter into full-scale production for 27, where we'll be building about 15,000 units.
Fantastic. Very exciting to hear all of that progress. Tom, question for you from the marketing side. There are a bunch of established solar battery systems companies out there that are going to be competing in the marketplace when this 2028 California generator ban hits. How do you plan for EFG to be competitive and outcompete the existing?
So let me start by sort of taking a high-level look at the product category and the things I saw as I was getting involved, which led me to believe that there's a lot of opportunity here. So it turns out that when you survey consumers or households in the US, more than 60% want to have backup emergency power at home. So they've either experienced power loss recently, or they know enough about their neighbors, or they see things in the news. They know they want to have backup emergency power at home. But the percentage of homes that actually have backup emergency power at home, meaning a standby generator, a gas-powered portable generator, or a solar generator, is roughly 20%. So in all my Nestle years, I never saw such a big gap between the percentage of people who want to access a product category and the percentage who actually have that type of product in home. And I don't think the issue is purely price, because there's a huge range of prices available, from an expensive Generac of $25,000 installed to a very low cost or relatively affordable small portable generator. So that says that there's a lot of opportunity. In the state of California, the opportunity for us starting in 2028 is going to be even more significant. Why? Because California has passed a law as part of their emissions reduction initiative that as of that date, gas-powered portable generators will not be allowed to be sold. So one of our primary competitors, in fact, the product type that has the lion's share of the category, is going to disappear, not from people's homes if they already have one, but they will no longer be on the store shelf against us, either in store at Home Depot, let's say, or online at Amazon. That's good for the environment in California. It's also good for us because we have one less competitor to worry about. But the competitors that are still there are largely solar generators. Solar generator means a combination of a battery station sold oftentimes with these solar panels, the portable solar panels that you put outside. And what we're going to do is emphasize our unique product advantage, which is that in the event of extended power outage at home, which is very often caused by major storms or weather conditions, and according to most people who track the weather and trends in the weather, there's no end in sight to that, nor is there end in sight to relatively unreliable and increasingly stressed power grids. There's going to be extended power outages. Only emission-free generators can provide assurance to consumers in California and elsewhere that will be able to provide electricity for an extended period of time. So if the power outage is a half hour, an hour and a half, there's not going to be a big source of differentiation between us and a battery station. But if that power outage extends to 5 hours, 8 hours, half a day, 2 days, 3 days, only emission-free generators can provide assurance of continued power. Why is that? Because our fuel source, these cartridges that Mark can and will explain in a lot more detail, these fuel cartridges will be easily accessible. You'll be able to buy them on Amazon, in brick and mortar retail, direct from us on our website. They'll be easy to store because they're small. They have a 50-year shelf life, so they're very safe to store and to stockpile at home. Consumers will stockpile these, and they'll be able to continue to put fuel into the generator for an extended, span of time. If I come back to solar, the primary competitor in California, for an extended power outage, it's a battery station. So batteries have a finite amount of charge. When that charge is depleted, and if the grid is out, which is the definition of a power outage, the only available alternative for them is solar panels. If it's a storm or even cloudy weather, solar panels are not very much used. So this, I think, is a compelling benefit to consumers. The idea of, in the event of an extended power outage, which of course we all hope does not happen, but in reality it does happen almost every day across the US somewhere, only EFG can assure customers to have continued power of their essential devices, medical devices, refrigerators for medicine and essential food, communication devices. Only with EFG will they be able to power those over an extended period of time.
Great. Thank you, Tom. And you just kind of led me into this. Mark, you mind just explaining how this technology actually works? Where does the hydrogen come from? How do you turn that into electricity? And I'm going to combine that because I'm seeing some questions come in about this already, and I think we can combine them, which is a little bit about the kind of product vision of where we go from the initial generator to what might be on the roadmap.
Yeah, sure. My favorite part, this is always, how the unit works and how we manage to get electricity from a powder. So I'll take you to where the customer has this. So the customer has our EFG device sitting next to them in their living room. And so the customer puts the cartridge in, just like a battery into a flashlight. And then they plug in their device. And let's say this is a 75-inch television, for instance. The EFG identifies the electricity draw required by that television. And our software converts this demand into hydrogen creation. The EFG then inputs a tiny amount of water into a small section of the cartridge. This creates a mild chemical reaction which releases a tiny amount of hydrogen from our proprietary powder. So that's the creation of hydrogen aspect. The hydrogen is immediately consumed by our proton exchange membrane, which converts it into usable electricity required to power the television. Now, this is a sequence that happens over and over again. We monitor the amount of draw from that television and we create the hydrogen. We monitor this 4 times every second. And then we make tiny amounts of hydrogen with tiny amounts of water, which is immediately consumed into electricity. By doing that, we don't have any storage involved in our system. It's a very safe, efficient, and unique method to have a continuous clean energy source right in your living room without any brownouts or without any blackouts.
Great. And I'll just follow it up with Mark. Actually Mark or Tom, talk a little bit about the product roadmap. We're starting with this EFG countertop device. Can you talk a little bit about where this might go? Specifically, I'll just ask the question someone asked, are larger capacity units being considered?
Yes, absolutely. So our first to market unit is a 1.6 kilowatt output. And we have plans to make smaller versions for recreational use. This is going to be great for putting into backpacks and just carry it with you, even on a day trip. But it's more than capable of providing sort of around about 300 watts for continuous period. So that's great for running laptops, small refrigeration systems, lights, those type of things. Even a small air conditioning units can work on that type of amount. And that's a small unit which fits very comfortably and lightweight in a backpack. And then we have the larger version for applications like EV power supplies, giving it a range extension, and also for marine use, marine solutions. Eventually, we'll get into whole of house. So this is a very broad range. Our technology can go smaller and can go bigger. We stop around about 15 kilowatts is the ideal spot for ours, anything below 15 kilowatts. But our technology can actually go up to around about 100 kilowatt if we really do need to. By expanding this technology footprint, we'll have an additional sort of 400 million marketing opportunity across the consumer, EV, and marine applications just by expanding it. That's in addition to the marketplace that's already available for us.
Fantastic. Thanks, Mark. And Jay Will, I think that answers your question of if this could power a tankless water heater for a 1,400 square foot home. I think if it could power a whole home, it can also power the water heater. Thank you for your question. And everyone, please keep dropping in your questions as they come up. Tom, I'm curious, what are the strategies that you plan for to ensure customer retention and loyalty to EFG?
Yeah. So the first thing I would say is our first priority when we launch is customer acquisition. Okay, we need to acquire enough customers to generate the sales revenue target that we have in mind. And I suspect in the first year of launch, probably 75–80% of our marketing investment will go towards customer acquisition. Having said that, we need to pay attention to retention. If you think about the EFG concept, the idea of a cartridge being put inside the generator, just like Mark explained, similar to an espresso coffee machine, which I know well from my Nestle experience. A certain amount of retention is sort of built into the concept in the sense that the only way to power the EFG generator is with the EFG cartridge. And Mark can talk more about our IP and why we feel we'll be very well protected from that standpoint. So a certain amount of retention is built in, but we don't want to take that for granted. We want to use our marketing and advertising and communication efforts to remind consumers about the importance of having a safety stock of cartridges at home. So, for example, when with approaching hurricane season in the Northeast or the Southeast, we'll be reminding customers to order to stock up to make sure they're prepared for any issues with power failure. And then if we think about the off-grid leisure activity use case, which is kind of our secondary but really important use case. This is leisure activities like camping, backpacking, hiking, RVing, etc. There's lots and lots we can do with our marketing efforts to communicate, to romance ways that consumers can use our products to enjoy off-grid leisure activities and have access to all their devices. So a lot of our marketing investment will go towards that. So in relation to retention, I would say those are the two primary things. But the major point I would make is that consumer acquisition will be our first priority.
Perfect, Tom. And I think now's a good moment to just jump into some of these questions that we have. Brian asked something at the very beginning of this webinar, which is, are there any plans to go to market through established distribution channels, or will this be a direct-to-consumer play only?
So the answer is both. We will take advantage of existing distribution channels, and we will offer our product direct to consumer off our website as well. Realistically, we're expecting the lion's share of sales to come through third-party retailers. The portable generator category is not a new to the world product category. Consumers have been buying it for a long time. Manufacturers have been competing for market share for a long time. The customer sort of knows where and how to gather information, where and how to shop, where to ultimately buy. That's existing momentum in the industry that we're going to take advantage of. We see no reason to fight against that. So yes, we will be, of course, this is all pending us being able to persuade the Home Depots, the Costco's, the Walmarts, the REIs of the world that they should carry our product, but we're confident we can do that, especially once we have a unit we can demonstrate. But we very much want and expect them to be distribution partners of ours. And yes, we will offer direct to consumer in addition to that.
Great. Thank you, Tom. I think will be for you, Mark, which is just on the product itself. I think a reasonable question here. When a cartridge is used up, does the power just shut off during the cartridge change, or is there continued power somehow?
Yeah, great question. No, it's a continuous power supply with our system. So when the cartridge runs out, we have a small internal battery which takes over from the production of hydrogen. And that allows the user to open the top up, open the lid, take out the cartridge, rustle around in their cupboard for one of the many stock they have in there, bring it out, put it back in again and switch it on, all whilst you are still receiving electricity from the power that we've put into the battery. So what happens is when we produce hydrogen and we supply that hydrogen through into the device that's been plugged in, that 75-inch TV, we also take a little bit of that hydrogen and a little bit of the electricity and put it into a battery, so that when that period of time comes along where you have to hot swap, in effect, take out one cartridge and put in another one, you don't want to lose power to an oxygen generator, for instance, or which is pretty critical, or your favorite television program. You don't want to lose power, so you don't. As soon as you hit one of the buttons on our unit, it identifies what needs to be done, as in change the cartridge or switch it onto a UPS system, the uninterrupted power supply. All of that takes place automatically, and it all comes through on your phone as well to say it's running out of powder, and so you've got to be reasonably close to the unit to then put a new cartridge in there. But you have around about 15-20 minutes, maybe even longer, depending on what you've plugged into it to swap that cartridge around.
Great, thank you, Mark. We have two more questions on the product side of things, specifically around any plans to produce a 220-volt machine, and more specifically, will you be integrating step-up, step-down converter transformer to accommodate both 110 volts and 220 volts?
Yes, we will have 220, and because we're going 220, we'll go up to 360 and probably 480. So 220 to 480 for EV usage. It's relatively straightforward to do. The proton exchange membrane is the bit that we have to boost up to give the additional voltage that you're talking about, and we can do that. We haven't looked at a switching unit internally yet to switch between 110, 120 to 220, 240. We have yet to do that. But I imagine that as soon as we get into the design stage to go up to the European requirement for power, then we will consider putting a switch in.
Great. Question for Tom. How will EFG incorporate customer feedback?
Yeah, so very good question. The first thing I would say is, again, if I go back to my Nestle days, one of my first learnings was the best time to begin collecting customer feedback for a new product is actually before you launch the product, which sounds like doesn't make any sense, but we've done 2 waves of market research with likely customers, likely buyers of emission-free generators. And we did that using a market research firm called Ipsos, which is very good at surveying a representative sample of people and asking them a series of questions. We did that because we wanted to identify likely customers right from the get-go and get their input and involvement in how we design the product. When we talk to you about our sales potential, we're not just making numbers up. We're a big piece of what informed our sales estimates and our estimates of market share are based on that consumer research we did with Ipsos, talking to 1,500 consumers and showing them the product concept and a price in a very structured way. It's the kind of thing Nestle does all the time. So the first thing I would say is we've already started customer feedback, even though we don't have any customers, by identifying likely or high potential consumers and households and asking them questions about what we're developing. We will continue to do that as product development advances, and we have a user interface that consumers can actually touch and feel and try and put the cartridge in and look at the display panel. We'll be collecting feedback from likely customers on that. Once we launch and we actually have paying customers, people who've purchased or have been given the generator, of course, we'll have customer service representatives available for them to contact either online or offline, and we'll work very hard to make sure that consumers can reach us easily to express their feedback, what they like about the product, what they don't like, problems or issues that they're having. In the early stages of a new product launch, as you all I'm sure understand, it's very important to pay careful attention to what consumers are saying. So we will commit our resources to do that.
Perfect. And Tom, you just mentioned, and as part of this research, testing pricing. One of the questions that we have for either of you is, what are the plans for how much the unit will cost, as well as the cartridges, and any sense on, expected margin?
Let me start with retail price, and then Mark, I'll leave you to talk about margin and cost to the extent we can.
And I will say, yeah, I will disclaim that this is all, we are projecting here. We do not know, but these are estimating and how we're kind of planning to move forward.
So likely retail price, and come back to the comment I made about sales channels and distribution, realizing the majority of our sales are going to be through third-party retailers, online and offline. So it will not be, absolutely in our control. But we're looking at a likely retail price somewhere around $2,100, $2,200 for the 1.6 kilowatt portable generator, and for a single cartridge, somewhere around $6.40, $6.50. That's kind of the pricing that we're looking at.
Okay, my job now, is it, to talk about to profit? Was it asked by a competitor or something like that, I wonder?
Yeah. I'd say whatever you can share, Mark.
Yeah, we obviously we don't want to give too much away. We are a profitable company. We're making sure that we are going to be around for many, many years to come. So therefore, our margins have to be sufficiently high to make sure that we cover all of the costs of the company and the expansion and continue R&D. So I won't go into exactly what those numbers are or the percentages, but we are a profitable company as we go into the sales. That is our intention. We also want to be a humanitarian part of our company going forward in the coming years. And to do that, we need to make sure that our numbers are up. So rest assured, we will be around for a while, and we will be plowing all of our profits back into the company. But for investors, our job is to make sure that our company value increases. That's what we are set out to do. So as well as bring out a fabulous new product onto the market and introduce hydrogen usage to people right in their homes, creating hydrogen in their homes nice and safely and cleanly, we are there for our investors as well to make sure that the company provides them a return on investment, because we're very grateful to those investors.
And I'll just jump in here. A thought that just came to me. What I think is really interesting about what EFG is doing is, you can do all the market research out there about how large is this market for generators, and you have to imagine that none of that data out there is actually fully capturing what the potential is. And what I mean by that is, I live in New York City. I would love to have an EFG. I would love to have a generator because, yes, sometimes the power goes out, but I certainly can't have a gas generator. A solar generator wouldn't work for me because I live indoors. I don't have any outside space to charge it with. And so something like an EFG is actually necessary if I want to have this continuous emission-free generator that I can use indoors. And so what I think is very exciting is this is actually, in my mind, a market expanding product, in addition to just one that can replace many of the products that are within the market.
And maybe just to build off that, I mentioned earlier that we estimate that 60+% of consumers want backup emergency power at home, but only 20% actually have it. The thing Alex just mentioned explains a big part of that gap. We estimate that, or actually I should say ChatGPT estimates, and it seems like a pretty robust estimate, something like 30 to 40% of US households do not have sufficient outdoor space to safely use a gas-powered portable generator, okay? Because you're supposed to leave 15 to 20 feet of space between the generator and your house, your windows, your vents, your doors, your family, to do it safely. If you get it too close, you risk dangerous, fumes and emissions. And so those people that don't have enough space for that probably don't have enough space for solar panels either. And you're in a situation like Alex has. Only EFG will be a solution for people like Alex.
Yes. Perfect. Now, Mark, we have a skeptic in the audience. So I'll let you take this one. John says, I'm skeptical about the powder. Do you have any verifications from a third party or a white paper discussing the technology? How do we know that this technology will actually work?
Yes, well, we have run our units now for over 12,000 hours, and not just us. So it's been run by US Army. We built a big bunch of these units on a military specification just a few years ago, and we have been adding to the technology that we used for the US military. It's all our own IP, and we're still working with US military, I hasten to add, but we moved away from a mil spec product into a consumer product because we can't control the buying process involved in military contracts. We can on the consumer side. And by doing that, by moving across to the consumer side, we had to have investment. And so we've had VCs, we've had many different types of investor doing due diligence on our company, including engineering trials and tests on our products to validate exactly what we've done. By doing that, we've then had validation from completely independent laboratories as well as manufacturing companies and engineering companies. And of course, come into San Diego and you can see them in operation. Because that's where our head office is based, and that's where a lot of our technology is being produced right there. We have done many talks and demonstrations, and one of our wonderful investors in our company has given us a grant as well, is SoCal Gas. They have seen our unit running many times indoors. And so, this is all validation of what we do. So I understand the skepticism. This is a very complicated piece of machinery with a very sophisticated software. So I understand if people want to know how this works. But fortunately, it does. And next year, they'll be able to buy one. So that takes all the skepticism away at that point.
Perfect. Mark, I don't want to be picking on you, but we've got another question here for you of just safety of the product overall, not from an emission standpoint, from a flammability standpoint. The question is, what are the flammability and explosive potentials of the unit? How safe is the EFG? And I know you talked a little bit about doing some UL testing, so.
Yeah, so there's no point in just taking it from EFG. Of course, we will always say this is an incredibly safe unit, but third-party verification is the only way that we go forward. That makes sure that everything is met up to the right standards. So we use a standard called IR 515, which is for hydrogen on demand small generators. We meet all of those standards. I know because I wrote part of that standard, and so therefore we make sure that we build to these levels. We only produce tiny amounts of hydrogen. And when I say tiny, I mean, we're talking about 0.13 liters of production of our hydrogen. And there is 12,500 liters in a kilogram of hydrogen. A kilogram is 2.2 pounds. So when you're talking about point something of a liter, you're talking about 0.0 grams. So this is a very tiny amount. Our system is built on a mechanical safety system as well as software. So when the hydrogen is produced, we don't produce loads of it. We only produce just enough to power the device that we are powering. And so it produces it, consumes it in the creation of electricity, and then gives it out as electricity to the device. It's not like sitting on an aeroplane with 20,000 gallons of fuel you're sitting on and just consuming it as you're going along. Ours isn't. Ours is powder. The military have shot bullets through our powder and tried to set this thing alight. It doesn't happen. It doesn't work. This is very safe, which is why US Army are moving forward with what we do. So this is a prime product to go into the consumer market, and we would not, as a group of directors, and very experienced directors, I may add, put ourselves at risk if there was any element of safety involved in this.
Perfect. Thank you, Mark. I imagine shooting guns at it is probably the best way to test to test that safety. Sure. A question here from an anonymous attendee, and I know I'll just acknowledge we're kind of getting to the end of our time here. We've got about 7 minutes left, so we'll try and get to a few more questions before we wrap this up. And I will say we will send out the recording for anyone who was here and for others as well. How do you plan to drive down PEM costs?
So proton exchange membranes are notoriously expensive. But we don't need all of the PEM cell. So if you go and buy a PEM cell, for instance, off the shelf, you have a lot of electronics, you have a lot of casing around it, there's lots of paraphernalia that come along with it. We don't have that because we control everything there is to know about the PEM. We just have the bare guts involved in a proton exchange membrane. This is very small. They're also built specifically for us for our our usage and how we work it. And so therefore the cost is dramatically lower than you would see if you went to buy something off the shelf. In addition to that, our numbers are quite high. Over the next 2 years, we're going to be using around about 20,000 PEM cells. That's an enormous quantity for manufacturers. So we're not just going to one manufacturer to ask them to do this. We're having to go to a couple of different good organizations, been in business for many, many, many years, as in decades. And for our buying power associated with what we're doing, that brings the price down even further. The more usage that we get, the more units that we can produce at EFG means that we bring the price down of PEM cells, not just for us, but for everybody. And that's a critical step forward for making hydrogen usable for the mass public, because the only thing that you can put through a proton exchange membrane and create electricity is hydrogen. And so that's why it's important to do what we're doing to bring the engine down, in effect, which is that price is the PEM is an engine.
Great. Thank you, Mark. And just Ken asked a question of how long can the cartridge power a device. And so I just shared the link to the WeFunder page. We have a graphic about halfway through that shares how long a single cartridge can charge different types of devices, right? Because it depends on how much energy each device needs. But just to read it out loud, a CPAP machine over 18 hours, a refrigerator over 9 hours, a home office over 12 hours for router, laptop, phone charging, 8 to 15 hours for outdoor recreational devices, lights, cooking equipment, etc. And so that's just on one single cartridge, but you can check that out on the WeFunder page as well. Okay. Last question here. That's actually just going to come from me, Mark, which I think is one of the most important questions for an investor is why now? Why is now the moment to invest in EFG? Why not wait a year from now, 2 years from now? Yeah.
Yeah, okay. This is a unique opportunity to invest at a critical market entry and scale up stage. That's where we are. We're positioning EFG as a leader in the next generation of portable energy. We're focused on the growth of opportunity and demand of sustainable portable power solutions, as well as being ready for the changes in regulations that are restricting fossil fuel generators, such as the California ban. Only EFG can say we offer an emission-free, uninterrupted power source that can be used indoors as well as outdoors. Nobody else can say that. The community response that we've been having with WeFunder has been extremely positive in a short period of time. And we continue to partner with companies like SoCalGas, who have also invested in EFG. And the EFG board of directors' job is to ensure that we create a value product for the consumer and a value for our investors, as I said earlier. And so now really is a great time to invest, because we're only going to be putting our price of the value of our company up. So you may as well get in early.
I will add the compliance disclaimer of our goal is to only go up.
That's right.
Perfect. Mark, any closing words here before I wrap us up? Or Tom?
Tom, anything from you?
Okay, perfect. Well, thank you everyone for joining us for this webinar. I hope this was informative. I hope it was useful. If you have additional questions that weren't answered or any that come up after this, on the WeFunder page, which I'm about to share with you and show you, there's a section for questions where you can ask questions publicly, and Mark or someone on the team, Tom, will answer those directly. So don't be hesitant to ask there. I will share that. So the website here is wefunder.com/emission-free generators. You may notice our goal is $300,000. We're at 290K, so we are almost there. Just $10,000 left until we hit our real fundraising goal here. So we're about to hit it. We're very excited about that. So now is a great time to invest if you are considering it. As I mentioned, we will send out a recording of this webinar afterwards to all attendees. but we appreciate you. Thank you for coming, and we hope to welcome you as an investor if you haven't yet. And if you are an investor, thank you, and we hope to welcome you as even more of an investor soon, if you catch my drift. Thank you very much, everyone.
Yeah, thank you very much, everyone. I really appreciate your time, and thank you so much to existing investors, and please, new investors, jump in, and we'll look after you.
Wonderful.
Thank you, everyone.
Everyone.
Thank you.